as the Battle of Gamergate rages on. The social justice warriors have finally found their kryptonite. Not in bigotry or hatred, but in passionate women and minorities who are tired of being exploited. Join the Honey Badgers as we discuss the Not Your Shield hashtag with special guest Gemma Morgan. As always, the show will be available for download after the broadcast at honeybadgerbrigade.com.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular, this is Honey Badger Radio, radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Tonight's topic is Not Your Shield with our special Gemma Morgan. How are you doing, Gemma?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Oh, we're fine. I'm good. Yeah.
Good.
Looking forward to this conversation, actually. Very much so.
We've got our wonderful panel members tonight. It's going to be a wonderful topic, and I really hope you'll enjoy what we've got for you. We've got Allison Tiemann. Hey, Allison.
Hi, Rachel. I guess to just give a little intro of myself so people know who I am and they can orientate towards my voice and not mistake me for Rachel, although usually everybody always does. Not that that's a bad thing, but anyway, I was one of the founders of Honey Badger Radio with Hannah and Karen, who will be joining us later on this evening. And I also have written and illustrated a webcomic called Xenospora. You can find it at xenospora.com. That's with an X, not a Z, xenospora.com. And I also write at a blog called Gender Attic about men's and women's issues. And the dynamic between the two. And I'll throw that back to Rachel to introduce another panel member.
Yes, and we've also got wonderful Hannah Wallen. The wonderful Hannah Wallen.
Hello. I'm Hannah Wallen. I write Breaking the Glasses. Also have a YouTube vlog by the same title and a Tumblr page by the same title. And it's breakingtheglasses.blogspot.com. So it's a blogspot blog. And I also write sometimes for A Voice for Men and for the Honey Badger Brigade and Gender Attic and mensrights.ca. I'm everywhere. And this week I actually have my voice, so beware.
We've also got Brian Martinez. Hey there, Brian.
Hey, how you guys doing? Brian Martinez. I have a webcomic called Good Guy. It's goodguy.weebly.com. It is a webcomic that deals with men's issues. And it's going to be going to a full, just a goodguy.com in December, hopefully. But yeah, look for that. And I'm just glad to be here as well. Talking about this Not Your Shield hashtag and all the stuff that goes with that. It's just a very exciting show.
And as always, I am your host, Rachel Edwards. And you can find my ramblings at my blog at naughtynerdist.tumblr.com. That's naughtynerdist.tumblr.com. And there you can see me discuss things like cats and the Shakespearean power struggle that is deciding what cookies to send people. And we've got Gemma Morgan, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Gemma?
Hey, I'm just your regular gamer. I got into Gamergate with Mundane Matt's video being pulled down, and then Internet Aristocrat getting into it, and just seeing the unethical stuff that was going on with games journalism, and I just wanted to get involved because I wanted it to change because I care about games so much. And yeah, I'm just a completely boring gamer, pretty much.
You're not boring. Don't say
Nothing
that.
boring about gamers.
You're so passionate.
Oh yeah, very passionate.
Plus, gamers know how to have fun.
Yes, they do.
But,
okay.
Before we go on, I actually want to ask, do you do any projects? Are you involved in anything at all, Gemma?
Well, I've got something to announce tomorrow, but I can't quite say about it just yet. But I'll probably be able to discuss it tomorrow.
Why don't you give out your Twitter account so people can follow you, and then maybe they can be abreast of this?
Yeah. My Twitter handle is @Shulumu, and if you find me there pretty much.
We'll be sure to put that in the low bar for you guys who are listening in after the show, and definitely follow Gemma, and be sure to pick up her announcement that she can't say today, but she'll be telling us tomorrow. So, yeah, back to you, Rachel.
Awesome. That is. Well, there's a lot of interesting things that you have done, though. You've been on a lot of different streams, and you were also on the HuffPost Live coverage, which I have a little piece about, if you don't mind me reading it.
No, go right ahead.
All right, there. Okay, so on October 15th, 2014, 2 months after it began, Gamergate had its fairest piece of mainstream media coverage. 3 women of Gamergate spoke on behalf of the consumer revolt. Jenny Barrage, Georgina Young, and Gemma Morgan spoke passionately about the topic of journalistic ethics in gaming media. Despite the fact that the host kept trying to make it all about misogyny, the ladies were unwavering in their resolve. They argued the points that the movement has worked hard to explain to the mainstream. This came after the creation of the Not Your Shield hashtag. The hashtag came out of the exploitation of women and minorities by social justice warriors. When people disagreed with the social justice anti-Gamergaters, they used the same tactics that they always did. They called them misogynists and racists for not supporting their side. Little did they know that the people they were talking to were not a group of cisgendered heterosexual white men. They were, in fact, a diverse group of individuals of every gender, race, and sexual orientation. They grew tired of being silenced by this group of people who claimed that they were speaking on their behalf. They were tired of people using the facade of social justice to hide the corruption, and now they are fighting back. What started as a sub-hashtag for Gamergate is now growing into a vast community motivated by a desire to reform gaming media, and to allow the voiceless to finally be heard. Needless to say, anti-Gamergate isn't pleased. Much like their response to Women Against Feminism, they've been called sock puppet accounts and weaponized minorities with internalized bigotry. But then, this is business as usual for social justice warriors. What isn't usual is this brave group of men and women risking everything to take a stand against corruption. That's a cause we can all get behind. And discuss.
Well, I agree. I'm pretty sure Gemma will agree with that as well. But I want to speak for you. There, okay. Gemma.
Yeah, I mean, I just did the interview kind of on a whim. I saw somebody I was friends with on Twitter was speaking to someone from the HuffPost, and they were looking for women to do this, and she happened to tag me in this, and I thought, oh, what's this then? And I said, oh, okay then. And I wasn't really sure about the Huffington Post. I don't know, maybe it's naive, but I didn't realize it was quite that big. And so I thought, yeah, all right then. I was kind of getting annoyed by by Brianna Wu going on there and just absolutely just running her mouth, saying absolute rubbish about Gamergate and stuff like that, saying it was just about harassment of women. It had nothing to do with ethics in games journalism. And when I was very mad the day before, and when I saw the opportunity, I thought, no, I want to stand up and I want to make my voice heard. So it just was kind of on a whim sort of thing. And I mean, it has changed how I've experienced Twitter quite a lot. But I mean, I wouldn't change it, what I went through, because I know I managed, it sounds quite self-important, but the feeling that I was able to help give people in like Not Your Shield and Gamergate some hope was one of the best feelings I think I've ever had, is just being able to make people proud of you and just say, well done, thank you for speaking to us. I even had my nan call me up and say that she'd seen me on the Huffington Post. And she said, is it about this Zoe Quinn woman or something? It was really sweet.
Zoe, so even your nan knows about Zoe Quinn.
Yeah, she knows about her now.
So how did it change your Twitter experience?
Well, I went from 180 Twitter followers to over, what was it? I think by the end of the day, I ended up with 2,500. And now I've got 4,600 followers on Twitter, and it's just crazy.
Wow.
I know, I
Wow.
just didn't expect it.
That's amazing.
But you really, like, when I saw how you spoke during the interview, I think you really deserve it because, to be honest, I think you cut through the bullshit a lot quicker than the other people who were in the interview. I think that because Ricky is obviously a seasoned reporter and seasoned at slipping conclusions, unquestioned conclusions through and getting you to agree with them, he did get a couple in there that I think passed your guard, but you managed to actually hit a few of those balls out of the park, particularly on the misogyny score. I'd love to like just talk more about your experience at that interview and talking with this individual who was very clearly pushing an agenda. Do you have any just a general impression of that the whole experience?
I tell you, I honestly spent the whole time kind of in a daze. It was kind of like I was almost like robotic during it, and every time it cut away from me, my hand was shaking so hard, grabbing my glass of water and drinking it, and it honestly is such a daze. I can't really remember it too well, and all I remember really is just kind of sitting there before the interview and then being on King of Pole stream after it. That's all I really remember from it.
Go ahead, Brian.
Wow.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
This steak is delicious. Gemma, I'm wondering, what you describe sound like your experience. I have two questions. One is, what you describe sounds kind of like, have you guys ever been bullied, and you felt powerless at the time, and then after it subsides, you think back on like what you experienced, and you feel like you've been attacked and you were made vulnerable, and that you even though you did stand your ground really well, and I listened to the interview and I felt that because I watched the same interviewer talk to, Brianna Wu in the other interview where he more so laid it out like, tell us what your experience was, and then she just spoke and he didn't challenge any of her, topics. But when you were on there and the two other ladies that were on there too, Barrage and someone else, he was a lot more aggressive, if I remember correctly, if I'm thinking about the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was basically trying to change the conversation to be about something else, and I think that you did really well addressing that. But the other thing I wanted to ask was, after the interview was over, did you think back on what you had just experienced and said, oh, I wish I had said something else? And also, was what was put on YouTube the whole interview, or were there things that may have been like, maybe you talked more before and after, and then stuff was taken out? Do you think that any of that was the case?
No, everything you saw happened as it is. And when we were doing the interview, it was, obviously he was trying to push this narrative back to misogyny nonstop. And I was just so sick of hearing about misogyny. I mean, these people use it so much, it's totally lost its meaning. It has no meaning anymore. It's it's like the boy who cried wolf. Sorry, you keep saying it, but it loses all this meaning. And like saying about harassment of women, that's fine if you want to talk about those issues within women in the gaming industry, but don't hijack Gamergate for your ideology, because there's no quicker way to shut down people than saying you're a racist, you're a misogynist, because it's attacking words. People don't want to hear after that. They think, oh, well, why would I want to associate?
Those things are
really
taboo
cool.
in our society, and I think everybody knows that it's sort of a socially, it's a socially accepted thing that you know that those things are something you absolutely don't want to do. Those are the things that will make you a social pariah. Being racist or sexist.
Yeah, the main issue with that kind of approach is, for one, he wasn't interested in what you guys had to really say, which is really kind of telling, right? Because you were all in the show to talk about the ethics, and he didn't want to hear your side of the story. He wanted to change the story, which is kind of odd. And then the other thing is that when it comes to these kinds of accusations, I find that when you accuse someone of sexism or racism or homophobia, you are trying to make them feel shame for, having a view or a perspective or saying something or whatever that is reflective of that. But the problem with that is if someone really is racist or sexist or homophobic or whatever, that won't actually insult them. Like, if you went to a Klan member and said you're a racist, he's probably going to say, yes, I'm proud of it. So it won't matter. So you would only use that on people who really don't feel that way, which is the ironic thing about it, is that so they're using it like a weapon on the wrong people, and they're trying to silence women that want to talk about something, which, I mean, I don't need to make any accusations as far as what I think, but that sort of says more about them than it does about you, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got so fed up of the narrative of just, we're misogynists, and when you go into the Gamergate hashtag, you don't see this misogyny. You see people who are being idiots getting called out. If somebody like, what's her name? This woman, Elizabeth Simmons, she quite proudly pronounces that she is a misandrist. She says, please donate to my Patreon for my misandrist art. And during Veterans Day, I actually said, I hope today of all days, people like her will realize the sacrifice that men gave so she could be so vile on Twitter. And then she screen caps it and just like saying, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, you don't understand, do you, that these people gave up so much so you could be free. They gave up their lives. And it's this blatant misandry that goes on this far left that never gets called out. But they're very happy to scream misogyny at everybody else when all I see is just this vile misandry that never, ever gets called out. And it just makes me sick. It really does. And it's not fair to label gamers like this because they're not misogynists. If they are misogynists, then I haven't seen it personally. And like I said, if you're an idiot on Twitter, people are going to say, hey, look at that person. They're being an idiot. We're going to call them out for being an idiot. But these people don't seem to be able to conflate with actions and consequences, that you will get called out if you act like an idiot on Twitter, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's that happened as well. What was that? Were you saying again?
Just giving you the royal decree. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I actually have seen that, though. I mean, they really are good about policing their own, the pro Gamergate side. And I really haven't seen this whole misogyny what we're talking about. I think the worst that I saw was when, this was just a sex scandal back when we were calling it, the conspiracy or whatever. But that quickly died. It was this little joke that was there for a little while, and they were like, wow, this shit is serious. The further we dig, this is, holy crap. You know what? Forget about Zoe. we're gonna start looking around a little more into this and continue on. But what I was gonna ask you was, have you received any threats or harassment as a result of being involved with Gamergate and Not Your Shield? that you wouldn't mind sharing with us, if that's okay.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I've had too bad of an experience compared to most others, actually. I think a lot of other women have had a lot of worse experience than I have. And, I've had somebody make a 30-minute video about me comparing me to Jews who sold out other Jews to the Nazis, and that was interesting. And, I think someone said, F you, you fat feminist. And then they said at the end, my husband's games suck. And I was like, do you know what? Call me what you want, but don't say my husband's games suck. That's where you cross the line.
Yeah. Are you done, Rachel, or did you want to say anything?
Oh, well, I mean, I could ask another question, but I think the other question I have is, what do you think is the best outcome we could see with Gamergate at this point, with the way things are going?
I mean, it's kind of hard to tell at the moment, because I think that the main problem we have is just that people are not willing to just talk. Now, I don't think this is so much on Gamergate's side. I think this is the majority on the opposition. They have pretty much closed ranks. They're not talking to people, and anybody who is talking, they are quickly shown up to be rather crazy, like Geordie Tate was today, and on King of Pole stream, we get this insight into this crazy sort of misandrist world view. So they've kind of closed ranks at the moment. And I feel if we cannot talk about this, I understand that people really do feel like women need to have their voices heard in gaming, and that's perfectly fine. I understand that there are concerns about women in the industry. That's fine, but don't hijack Gamergate to make that point. We need to talk about this, and I think the fact that nobody wants to talk is really stifling any sort of outcome we can have. When you have people who are acting victims, who are, and as soon as they act stupid on Twitter, link their Patreon accounts, it's what can come out of that other than just more hatred? We just need to listen and talk to each other and try and resolve this, because it's just going to get uglier at this point.
Well, I wanted to actually bring up a point that are some observations I came to while I was watching your interview with Ricky at HuffPo. He was very, very, very invested in the narrative of woman as victim. Like, he was trying to apply that narrative onto the three of you at every single opportunity. And also, he very sneakily snuck in the association between womanhood and victimhood and feminism at one point. And because he was essentially throwing punch after punch after punch at you guys, you basically just allowed him to do it without challenging it. I don't know if you noticed that. Did you notice that, Gemma? That he was doing that?
Like I said, I think it was pretty much like a daze, and I was so nervous. But I mean, I was getting so fed up of just bringing it back to harassment of women, when I didn't want to talk about harassment of women, no matter how many times he brought it back to him. Not that it doesn't concern me, it's that Gamergate is not that conversation at the moment, and just to have it constantly brought back to something that you're not here to talk about is really frustrating. And, I think we had to just cut through the rubbish and just say, no, look, this is about ethics in games journalism. This isn't about misogyny. We're not victims. Stop making us out that we're victims. And that's why I kind of felt the point to say out that I'm not a feminist, because Georgie and Jenny were saying, "Oh, we're feminists," but I want to say, well, no, not every woman is a feminist. You might, Ricky, you might be a feminist, but I'm not. I'm not a victim. I have my own agency that I can decide if I'm a feminist or not. Please stop bringing this all the way back to bloody feminism. I do not care. I really don't.
Well, can I present an observation of Ricky? I think that he is incapable of seeing outside of the narrative of woman as victim.
Yeah,
So
I would say that.
He was trying to make this make sense to him, and the only way this situation made sense to him was to see women as victims. And considering that he is so attached to this idea that women have to be victims, that they have to be victims in every single circumstance, and that's the only way he can understand it. Considering how attached he is to that, who is the real misogynist? Who are the misogynists really here? The people who are actually questioning this automatic association with women and victim, or that women being victims is the most important issue in every possible circumstance. I mean, I could go on about how men are portrayed in games, how men are used as basically like meat bags to be thrown into wood chippers in games. I'm not going to do that, but you could make that argument about how men are portrayed in games and how men, and of course I would also make the argument about society as well, but let's set that aside. You can make that argument. You don't have to see women as victims in every circumstance, or even victims as how they're portrayed in games. You don't have to see that. It's not necessary. It can be questioned. And yet these people are coming from the automatic assumption that women are victims. You have to wonder what is behind that. Like, what is it that they cannot see about women that they can only see them as victims? And then that goes into who is the real misogynist here. And that's what I was thinking as I was listening to Ricky. I'm like, you are so dead set on seeing this issue in these very simplistic terms. Women must be a victim somehow. They must be. This is my narrative. I am pushing it. I'm not even going to listen to women. I'm not even going to listen to a bunch of women saying, no. I'm going to push this fucking narrative down their throats until they goddamn submit. They are victims. And I'm like watching this, I'm thinking, wow, and you're calling other people a misogynist, Ricky? Interesting projection there. But that now I'm babbling, so
Allison Smash, yes. But here's what I've been noticing, and it's really disturbing. It's that these guys they continue to push the idea that we need to have a conversation about women, and we need to talk about sexism in the industry and things like that, and diversity. But really, the truth of the matter is their idea of women is not one where there are many different kinds of women who need different things and who like different things and who approach things in each in a different way. They don't approach it from that aspect. They approach it from feminism is good for every woman, even though it's kind of insane to think that this is a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. This is all gonna, even if feminism was to be believed as an ideology, you could not make the argument that this is one-size-fits-all, that this is going to be good for every single woman, and it's not. It simply isn't, and the idea that everybody can be comfortable with that label is just completely and utterly ridiculous, and that if you don't take it on, there's something wrong with you. I think people are really tired of that. I think the women of Gamergate are tired of it. I think a lot of women who even aren't involved in Gamergate or Not Your Shield are really tired of it. It's showing up more and more. They're fed up because they know that these things are not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It's not a fix for the issues that are really happening for everyone. That's just my opinion.
Gemma, did you have anything to add to all of that?
No, I think we've pretty much hit on everything. But if you guys want to ask me anything else, go ahead.
Will you stay for
Hannah
the
Bananas?
Yeah,
I did have something.
Sorry,
and it's
Hannah.
more. It's okay. That's fine. Actually, what you said was really, really good. But no, my question is more along the lines of Twitter, but it's sort of bringing the Huffington Post interview and Twitter together. So I've noticed over time participating in Gamergate, the same kind of behavior in social justice warriors as they sort of come in and try to engage Gamergaters and try to use different tactics to sort of push people out of Gamergate or knock people out of Gamergate, that they're hitting Gamergaters with the same tactics as as the interviewer did there, where they have this, their statements will contain foregone assumptions about female victimhood and the feminist narrative, various aspects of the feminist narrative, and they'll talk over you as a woman. When you say, no, this is not my lived experience. No, this isn't a universal thing. No, this isn't, women do not necessarily always have to experience this, and it has to do with other factors and so on. You get this actual Haiti, how dare you oppose this narrative? I was wondering if you've kind of experienced that, but also the fact of, as I've resisted it, and as I've countered it, I've noticed less and less of them have been willing to engage me. Like previously, when I first started participating in Gamergate, and I've been kind of marginal there, but I would get replies to anything that I tweeted where I'd have social justice warriors arguing with me, and now they don't. I don't know if you've noticed much of that.
No, I have noticed that. I've noticed that when Gamergate first started, you get a lot of insults usually. I mean, it's usually to do with bodily fluids, how they insult you, piss baby, shitty person, all this kind of rubbish. And, most of their conversation with you now is just dismissal, death, for wishing death upon us, and just general outright hatred. But I noticed that a lot of before we used to be able to have a talk with people. It's funny, actually. I met somebody who took my tweet, retweeted it, and said, "This is the definition of privilege." This is before I went on the Huffington Post, and I had a bit of a spat with him. Then we followed each other, and now we talk to each other pretty much like every other day, just say, "Hi, how are you? What are you up to?" sort of thing. And it just, I think all of this goes to show as well that we're not all so different. I think a lot of the moderate anti-Gamergate people and Gamergaters, we can have a talk about this, and they probably are more willing to have a chat with you about it. But the absolute full Macintosh ones, don't even bother with them. You are never going to change their mind. They have already made up their mind that you are literally the worst thing since Hitler, pretty much.
And they want to make your mind up too.
Yeah, exactly. They don't care. They don't care what you have to say because you don't fit their narrative. You don't fit their worldview, so they do not care. So do not bother with them. Do not engage with them because they're not worth your time. You may as well just go and talk to a brick wall and you'll get about the same response. Probably more intelligent, to be honest, with a brick wall. So don't bother with them. But if you can talk to more moderate people, and get a conversation going with them, you'll realize that, apart from this one issue, we're all we're all just gamers. We're all just nerds. Don't let this divide us. We can bring this all back and just become a community again, Sorry if I'm babbling on again, but...
No, I think that was exactly what, the same kind of experience I've been having is when you get with the more moderate, you get to discuss with more moderates, you do find some common ground. And it seems like it's just become more and more polarized to where the full Macintosh, ones, they're the ones that are taking over the SJW narrative, and it just seems like the moderates are disappearing.
Yeah, that's They're going. They're just trying to distance themselves from some of the craziness. But yeah, I've seen a more a harsher tone to a lot of the rhetoric from the social justice warrior crowd. But I wanted to bring it back to the interview at the HuffPo. And another thing that I sort of noticed that Ricky did, and totally unchallenged by the panel. I think possibly part of the problem was, Gemma, you weren't allowed to just beat on him until he recognized that you weren't going to accept the being tarred as a misogynist. But one thing he did was he presented the idea that you cannot criticize feminism, and that criticizing feminism is criticizing women and is an automatically misogynist act. And again, it was a situation where that was he was throwing punches so fast that you guys were on your back foot and defensive, and I think that that went unchallenged. And in my opinion, it is a completely erroneous thing to say. Because if feminism describes reality, it's a science, and a science invites criticism. And if it doesn't describe reality, it's an ideology that people do not have to believe. We don't have to agree with it. If you're going to say that feminism can't be criticized, I'm afraid I take offense to that. I think that I don't want to engage with something that cannot be criticized. And the other thing, to equate feminism with womanhood, and to say that any criticizing of feminism is a criticizing of women, I would take deep umbrage at that. Not the least of which is because feminism has this really strong attitude that women are defined by being victims. And if you can't challenge that, what does that really say? That our society, we were not allowed, it's taboo to challenge the notion that women are automatically defined as victims. And even if you say that to people, they'll say, well, women, this happens to women, this, that, and the other thing happens to women. But it's like, yeah, fair enough. But have you looked at the other side? Have you weighed the other side? Have you looked at how acceptable misandry is in the general population, in the general society? I mean, do you ever put what you see as women's victimhood in perspective, or do you just always just say the situation is better for men? What if you are wrong? What if women really aren't victims and you are presenting and creating this toxic attitude to womanhood? What if you're wrong? And the lack of response to that speaks volumes. They don't have any answer to that because they don't ever think that they could be wrong. And I know I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, Gemma. I'm trying to pull a question for you out of that, or if you disagree, you can feel free to say, Allison, you're full of shit.
No, you're not full of shit at all. That was amazing. I mean, it's like I said, it's like the general acceptance of misandry in the culture at the moment is quite disturbing to me. I don't see why we as gamergaters are being labelled as misogynists when you have this clear misandrist worldview that's permeated this very extreme side of the left, and the fact that it's unable to be challenged, that somehow it's this sacred cow you cannot touch, otherwise you are a pariah in society. Now, I guess I'm lucky to be a woman because this allows me to be able to criticize feminism. Even though I am ridiculed, you are unable to do this as a man because you are instantly a misogynist. Now, with me being a woman, I am just somehow stupid. I'm misguided. Somehow, I have somehow been wronged and I need to be shown back to the light. If a man disagrees with feminism, he's literally the worst. He's scum. He's a misogynist. And this is disgusting. And I made a tweet today imploring people, no matter if they see misogyny or misandry on either side, please call them out, because this kind of attitude is not right. To live in a world where you say kill all men, could you imagine if that was turned the other way around, to kill all women? There would be outrage. There would be outpouring of just hatred towards these people. But somehow you're allowed to express kill all men and it's just a joke. It's just a witticism, oh, it's funny. It's not funny. Misandry is not funny. Stop acting like it's funny. It really isn't.
Well, yeah, it's not funny. I mean, it can be funny. It's a black humor, ironic way, but they don't present it. I don't see the irony. I mean, black humor, dark humor stuff. But it has to be black humor. You have to recognize that it's horrible in order for it to be black humor. because I think that anything could be funny, but you still, at the same time, the person who's making it funny has to recognize the horror of it. Otherwise, it's not black humor. I don't actually find Kill All Men funny, really. I don't see the punchline to it. But it's a bit baffling to me. It's just like, well, all right, where's the humor? But anyway, I wanted to actually lay something out for your comment, Gemma, about Gamergate and anti-Gamergate and the gamer identity. And what I think one of the most essential, and this is, I tend to go really deep, so if I go too deep, just tell me that I've gone off the deep end. But yeah, but what I find interesting about this is the gamer identity is really about this kind of transgressive quality. Like you go into these other worlds and you almost transgress the limitations of this world, and you transgress certain social taboos. For example, Grand Theft Auto. It's really about seeing yourself in terms of what you can do. You go into these worlds, you have these fantastic abilities, you have these amazing adventures, and it's all about seeing yourself in terms of what you can do, and how you can affect the world, essentially. So it's entirely an identity. Gamer identity is entirely around and appeals to people who like that sense of having this agency and doing and creating these bigger than life things. And I wonder if that's just completely like women who get into gaming in a big way. I think their identity as women, in a lot of ways, I think this is where the women of Gamergate may be coming from, and I'll invite you to comment on it, is that they've engaged in these worlds and they've experienced this almost amplification of their agency, of their sense of being defined by what they do and how they interact in the world, and the power of their interactions with these fantastical worlds. That when they come down into this world and the social justice warriors come at them with the victim identity and trying to define women, and specifically the women who are involved in the gaming community, as victims, as acted upon. I mean, it must be really jarring in a lot of ways. And I wonder if that's where, even I was seeing the passion that you had when you were talking to Ricky about and saying that feminism doesn't have a place in gaming, in critiquing gaming, because feminism really is about presenting women as victims, whereas the gaming culture is really about giving women and men these tools to enable them to feel this incredible sense of power and just extending their abilities in these fantastical worlds. You know, it's like it's magnificent, right? You're just doing these incredible things. You're seeing you're having these incredible adventures, and that clash between the female gamer identity, seeing herself in terms of what she can do, and being drawn to being in these worlds where what she can do is like incredible, and the social justice feminist identity of women as basically being like a flat block of clay that's just sort of acted upon by by men. You know, you're just there, and all you do is get acted upon and victimized, and that's it. You know, it's almost like I imagine as a gamer, I actually don't game because I get highly addicted to games, but I find that really jarring to come down off of that high to a bunch of people saying, oh yeah, well, you're just a piece of clay. You don't really have an effect in the world. And I just wanted to get your comment on that and what you think, if I'm totally out of left field, or if
No, you're not at all. No, I agree, because I play a lot of World of Warcraft, and it has been detrimental to my gaming in general, playing World of Warcraft, because it stops me playing many other games. But because your deeds only matter. All that matters is your skill in the games, and this is what I love about gaming, is because it doesn't matter if you're a woman. It doesn't matter if you're a man. It doesn't matter what you identify as. Your skill in the game is all that matters. Now, I understand totally what you mean by, like, in a world that's full of possibilities and freedom, to come back down to be told that you are somehow, you should be afraid of men. You should be, especially in MMOs, you should be afraid of the men you interact with, who you are friends with, because they have ulterior motives, because they want to harm you, is horrible. And I don't want these men to be harmed in such a way, because I know these people are my friends. And whenever I've been in a guild with other people, you know, sitting in chat, just talking with each other, laughing and joking, all making absolutely the most blue collar jokes you can imagine to each other. And to say these people, these men I hang out with, are disgusting, they are misogynists, they only keep me around for their own pleasure. You know, when I know this isn't the case, when I know these people that I speak to and are friends with care about me and care, and they know I haven't got to a place in the guild because of me being a woman. I've gotten there because I played the game well. And you notice this in games that, of course, you will get the occasional woman who will kind of smooth her way to the top of, you know, in the guild leader's eyes, and there will be a lot of drama. But generally, it's about your skill. If you're a bad player in a lot of these games, you're not going to last very long. It's very egalitarian. Everything's equal. All that matters is your skill in the game, and that's what I truly love about it. You know, Ben is sitting right next to me now playing Destiny. When I play with him, I suck at Destiny. I am so bad at it. But to think that people think that my husband here is some kind of misogynist who's holding me down is pretty laughable. These people are crazy, pretty much.
Well, what I think is, personally, is that when you adopt the gamer identity as a woman, you recognize that what's holding you back is yourself. There's nothing else. And it's really your choice to succeed or your choice to fail. And this whole feminist conception that men have some sort of magical mystery net that's holding women back, Hannah said something really insightful in the chat. So simultaneously it creates this animosity towards men, but it also creates this identity of women being so weak and incapable. It takes away that aspect of being a gamer, that you recognize that it really is up to you whether or not you suck. It's really your choice whether or not you cultivate the skill. But anyway, I'm going to cede the floor to Hannah because I really, really, really want to hear what she has to say.
Well, after you've been in that position of, you know, like when you game with a group, you have to hold up your end of things, or you really fall behind. And you know, just like working on any team, if you don't hold your end of things up, you are gonna hold back the team. You're gonna let down the team, and it reflects on you. And when it comes to gaming, I mean, it's like 4chan's rules of the internet, where there are no girls on the internet. Well, there's really no girls in gaming either, in that there's not really you really can't have slack from one set of people and have somebody else pick up the slack, because you're in a situation where, generally speaking, the skills in the games are kind of set, and you can't make up for it if there's that slack, especially not if it's consistent. And it's the same thing. In a way, it's the same thing in, like, when I'm involved in the book and paper type gaming, that, you know, tabletop, roll a dice. If you don't put forth the effort, you don't have the intellect, you don't know your character very well, or you don't know your character class very well, and you're not doing your job as a gamer to hold up your part of making it fun, you know, or at the same time in a single player game where you're on your own, if you don't do it, it's not like somebody else can come in and pick up after you. You're just screwed. You come out of that, and you're accustomed to testing yourself and pushing yourself and holding up your end of things. And then you come back to somebody talking about you being helpless, treating you like you're held back by somebody else, treating you like you're not capable of advocating for yourself and making things happen for yourself. It's like they're speaking gibberish. It's like you got somebody coming in talking to you again, how do what of misogynies, and you have no idea what the hell they're talking about because it's completely outside your life experience. And that's, I don't know, I guess that's what I meant when I said that in chat, where it's like they're coming along and just speaking some kind of gibberish. It really does. It makes the language of social justice warriors gibberish when you're accustomed to exercising your agency all the time, and then they come along and try to use multiple ways to take it away from you or make you feel like you don't have it.
Yeah. And also try to make you feel like your fellow gamers are somehow, oppressing you.
Different people than they are. Honestly, it's the same thing that kind of got me into men's rights activism. Not so much actively, but the anti-feminist end of it is I grew up, I didn't have a lot of, there weren't very many girls my age specifically. There were girls a couple of years older than me and a couple of years younger than me in my neighborhood. So I hung out with a lot of boys. And I grew up with how they actually are. I knew how they actually are. And then along come feminists telling me that they're totally different people than they actually are. I'm sure girls in gaming have the same experience, that they're surrounded by guys. And they know how those guys are. They know who those guys are. And then along come these idiot SJWs telling them that they're something completely different. It's gibberish. It makes no sense.
Rachel, did you want to step in here?
Oh, yes, I did.
Or actually, Brian wanted to get a, or actually, wait, Karen, do you want me to intro you so everybody knows that you have arrived upon the scene? You magnificent bastard.
I kind of arrived with a bit of a whimper. I've been here for a while. I've just been listening, so I don't have a whole lot to add. But hi, everyone. Hi, Gemma. Welcome.
Hey, yeah.
So yeah, no. Just the intro over. Get back to it. I'm listening.
Okay, I'll say some things. There's a lot of interesting things to be said about Not Your Shield and what people have gone through just in making the hashtag and using the hashtag and everything. The man who started it, who is African American, by the way, he was let go from his job as a result of some of the actions of trolls and things like that. He was a game developer, actually, and he actually literally was booted out of the industry. So the idea that Gamergate on its own, the pro-Gamergate side, is trying to kick people out of the industry. Well, the anti-Gamergate side has actually booted people out of the industry. And when we talk about some of the folks, like, I think I recall seeing the thing about Samantha Allen was that she left the industry, but then again she made some incredibly misandrous comments. I think she did an article entitled "What Being a Misandrist Means to Me," and that's well, I don't know what else I can say about someone like that. If you're saying things like that are unapologetically man-hating, and then people react in the logical way that you would expect them to, I don't understand how that's pushing anybody out of the industry. I mean, you have to expect that when you say something like, I hate men, and I'm proud of that.
And a fridge magnet couldn't contain my loathing, yeah.
Yeah, basically, you can't say something like that and not know that it's going to bring about animosity. You know exactly what you're doing when you do that.
Or clicks.
We have them constantly saying, well, it's ironic. It's ironic misandry. Yeah, no, but see, the thing is that ironic misandry is if you were really, like like what they criticize us for, right? With, Allison going up to the security guy with his $500 parcel, right? For his $500 donation and saying, here you go, it's your 40-pound box of rape, right? That's irony, right? Like that because we're called rape apologists all the time. We're called rape supporters all the time. We know we're not. So we make a joke out of it and we constantly talk about how rapey we are, right? So that's irony.
Go out of our way to oppose rape, no matter who the victim is. There's no loopholes with us. We do not like rape, and we do not condone rapists, no matter what genital configuration. It's like we condemn this in the strongest terms.
There you go. So we're joking about rape all the time. Yeah, that is irony. That is an ironic rape joke. That is because of our position of being against rape in every single form. But when you look at something like the hashtag Kill All Men, or when you look at something like Samantha Allen's blog post, right? She's maybe being hyperbolic, right? Like maybe she doesn't feel as strongly as she comes across in that article, right? Just deep down inside. But hyperbole is not irony. It is not ironic misandry. She is merely overstating what she feels. That's all she's doing.
Sort of like if a white supremacist said, let's drive all the black people let's kill all the black people, when her real position is let's just drive them out of North America.
There you go.
That kind of hyperbole. And just as a disclaimer, I totally that would be like not my position. I know that some people would try to pin that on me, but I'm using that as an example of hyperbole.
Yeah. Quote miners. Quote mining alert.
Yeah, quote mine.
Excellent material. 30 seconds ago.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also the joke that we eat kittens. That we're evil kitten eating MRAs. But here's the thing.
I had to stop because the hair got stuck in my coat and stuff. Like the cat
One
hair.
thing I will say though is that the Gamer Gators, generally our knees are all soggy. They're just wet. Just totally. My knees right now are actually dripping on the floor. I'm probably gonna have to pay back. I'm gonna lose my security deposit because of the damage to the carpet in my apartment. From
Hannah, I am so turned right now.
You are internalizing this soggy knees,
Yeah, it's just I can't help it. Wet knees.
And it's on the inside too. Because
gosh. It's
like the stigmata.
She's got water on and under the knee.
Yep.
That's how soggy they are.
Oh gosh, you guys, that's
okay.
What is it about me and joining up with organizations that have a joke about eating something that everybody loves, like I'm an atheist, and the joke, like I'm an atheist, and the joke is that we eat babies, and I'm an MRA. The joke is that I eat kittens. So
I don't just eat the babies. I throw them up in the air and I catch them on my toasting fork.
Oh gosh, you know what we need to do?
I sear them just a little, just maybe 2 minutes on each side, right? So they're nice and rare.
We need to do
little paprika.
That's how I eat my short long pig.
Oh gosh! Next conference we need to have wait, you guys get on this. You organizers for the conference, get on this. What we need to do is we need to have one of those baby shower cakes that actually looks like a baby, but it's like red velvet cake on the inside.
Hey,
so
now, does anyone remember?
Okay. This is getting
But now we have to decide what Gamer Gators eat. I nominate baby dragons.
Does anybody remember there was actually a cake? Allison, you might remember this. Like 2, 3, 4 years ago, there was some feminist conference or something, and they had a cake that was made in the shape of, I think, like a black woman, and they were eating it.
What?
It was
the point of them doing that.
It was the weirdest thing I have ever seen.
Yes, I remember. You know what? Karen, I am just going to purge that from my mind and just move the hell on. Because
I'm confused now.
It's no, Hannah.
I need a whole plate full of kittens to get over that.
Yeah, okay. I can
Guys, you're being pretty intolerant, though. I mean, you're not thinking of vegans like myself, you know. Do you have tofu kittens? You know, come on, guys, seriously.
Tofittens.
Oh, no.
Like tofurkey, but furrier.
I actually make some pretty good fried tofu with a wonderful ginger dipping sauce.
Okay, so if you're a vegan, is it just that you don't want to exploit animals? Because I have like a whole huge bag full of dog hair that I'm looking to get rid of. And I'd be willing to let that go. It didn't, no harm came to her. She was much happier after I brushed her. For some reason, when the thermometer drops to like minus 12 Celsius, that's when she drops her entire coat. I don't understand. Like,
okay, we're in the silly place.
In the winter, I don't understand.
What I think Karen is saying is, she's willing to unload a bag of cruelty-free dog hair.
Yes.
At a reasonable price. Would you be interested as a vegan?
Well, I tell you what, whenever I go back home to London, I've got white cats, so my black clothes are always covered and I look like a Yeti, so I think I'm pretty okay for animal fur, but you can make a pretty good coat out of it, you know, when it starts getting chilly.
We should auction off the cruelty-free dog hair.
Yeah.
My ex had a white carpet and a black couch, and he had black dogs and a white cat.
Wow, that's a mess right there.
And
That's
completely off topic. So let's maybe
okay. Yeah, I can actually wait. Hold on. Let me go pull up my topics. Dang it! I don't know why I closed it.
This would be the perfect video game. Would be fixing the
Brian?
problem of hair on your couch.
Something.
Okay, go on, Brian. Go on, Brian. While I pull up my topics.
Expound.
So I noticed that we talked a little bit about how we think this thing might end, and what makes Gamergate unique. And to me, Gamergate is unique because gaming is it's a true meritocracy, right? Especially with the gaming online, on the internet, and at home. The only thing that matters is, do you play and do you play well? Okay, that is the only way that we measure a person's worth. The people who are against Gamergate, that say that it's about misogyny and racism and these other things, and they ignore the people who are, who represent those groups that they say are the oppressed or the harassed, they clearly don't understand that there have always been people of color, people who are disabled, women, people of various sexual orientations that have played video games. But because video gaming itself is a true meritocracy, where the only thing that matters is, can you play, do you like games, and how good are you at them, none of those other traits came into play for the most part in the community. A really good example of a really diverse gaming community is the fighting game community. I'm a big fighting game person, and I follow it. And if you ever see competitions, which are gigantic, they go to Las Vegas. They have these big tournaments. There are people literally from all over the world, all different genders, whatever. And the only thing that matters is, can they play and are they any good? And the reason why the anti-Gamergate side doesn't seem to get that, and that they make accusations of, not your shield people being sock puppets or having internalized misogynies and all these other things, is because they don't see that this is the way it's been since gaming has come into existence. This isn't new. Like, it's not like women just discovered it and started playing it. If they liked it, they always liked it. I remember playing Street Fighter II in 1993 and getting my ass kicked by a girl in the arcade. I never forget it, because I was the kind of guy who would walk into the arcade and beat everyone. And she kicked my ass, and I never saw her again. She was like the man with no name. I mean, she just passed through town and beat me. And, that was like awesome. I mean, I whoever you are, I have a ring with your name on it. But if you're out there. But that's the thing about Gamergate that makes it special. The only thing that matters is, are you good and can you play? And where the social justice warriors are struggling with Gamergate in particular, they have hit a wall with all of the other areas and all of the other sort of like avenues where they've affected, say, the movie industry and the music industry, or they're trying to, in these other entertainment industries, these cultural areas where you can bully people and peer pressure them into making things your way and considering their groups or whatever. Gaming is unique, and gamers do not want people, first of all, distracting from what they think is important, which is what Gamergate is about, journalistic integrity, but also, which is another part of it, is the authoritarian tone that is being sort of dictated to them, where basically these gaming journalist websites that are being criticized, one of the things that they're doing is not only are they trying to label everyone in Gamergate as a specific stereotype demographic of like white, cisgendered, basement-dwelling neckbeards, which basically eliminates everyone else that isn't part of that group, while at the same time attacking white cisgendered males that which I don't agree with either. They also think that they have that they know better than everyone else, that they know what's best for us, and they have an interest in keeping that going. Like Anita Sarkeesian was supposedly got threats by some guy. We found out he was in Brazil, right? And that guy in Brazil, she never pressed charges against him. And I overheard in another chat that Rachel was in earlier. I forget the name of it, but it was you and Marshall and Kiki. They mentioned that why didn't she press charges on that guy? Well, I'll tell you why she didn't press charges on that guy. That guy's useful to her. Because if he does it again, she wants people to harass her because it works to her advantage. This whole thing. I'm sorry, what was that?
She has no fear. She has no real fear.
No, the guy is a country away anyway. He's not going to do anything. But the threats are useful to her. She can benefit from those. And, I have a quote that I think is because I've had discussions about Gamergate with lots of people, and I have this one quote that I want to read from one of my personal heroes. And this basically is what I think sums up what Gamergate is to me, as well as Not Your Shield and other people that, are part of that group. Okay? So it goes as follows. Doesn't matter what the press says. Doesn't matter what the politicians or the mob say. Doesn't matter if the whole country decides that something is wrong, that something wrong is actually something right. This nation was founded on the principle, above all else, the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the world, no, you move. Because that's what Gamergate wants, is the truth. That's why it can't lose. The anti-Gamergate side does not have a win condition. They're only trying to fight the tidal wave. And Gamergate will win. And I'm not being optimistic. As long as people don't forget about it and don't allow it to be distracted, it can't lose. And that's what I think.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually wanted to add to that, if that's okay, Rachel.
Yeah, I was going to add as well, but it's okay. Yes.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to add is I think there's something even more fundamental going on here. And I think there's a reason why it was gamers that fought back. Because there have been lots of communities in which the social justice warriors and the feminists have gone in and they've applied their usual divide and conquer tactics, and the community has abided by them and just rolled over and said, okay. I think the gamer identity is in direct opposition to identity politics. In fact, I wouldn't even call it direct opposition. I think the gamer identity is in another dimension entirely. It's like identity politics is this black and white two-dimensional thing, this simplistic narrative based on belief. I mean, they have no problem throwing black man out of the industry if he doesn't